condition which is thinner bones. It's called osteopenia. It's not osteoporosis, but I did break a bone last fall. And my doctor said, don't go to the Galapagos, you're going to break a bone. And so I had to overcome that, say, no, I'm going to go anyway. This has been on my bucket list. It's something I always wanted to do. We had such a wonderful time in this very strange place where Darwin invented the theory of evolution, because of the great giant turtles and all these different birds and different kinds of animals you don't see anywhere else. There's an iguana there. An iguana is a lizard that runs around on the land. There's an iguana there that's called a marine iguana. He goes underwater, goes down in the ocean, and eats the algae that's on the bottom, because there's not a lot of food in the Galapagos. There's not a lot of vegetation. And that's how these iguanas have evolved. They swim down to the bottom of the ocean and eat this algae. That's how they make their living. Very interesting animals. All these animals have evolved very differently from anything you've ever seen anywhere. I wanted to go there. It was on my bucket list. I'm 73. I finally got there. And you may have some things on your bucket list, and that takes some time to get there. And here's doctor saying, don't go. COVID says, don't go. Don't do it. Don't. And the waiting list sometimes to get on these National Geographic Lindblad cruises is 1.5 years for some of their cruises, particularly the ones to Antarctica or something. There, 1.5 years, you have to sign up in advance in order to get on these cruises. Here, this guy's saying, don't go. And well, I didn't break any bones. I'm in great shape. And regardless of what he thinks, I didn't break any bones. We were able to go there and see these animals that are unbelievable. First off, the animals aren't afraid of you. You can walk right up on the beach and walk right next to the baby sea lion, and the mother sea lion doesn't care. There's 1 million different kinds of birds, not 1 million, but quite a few different kinds. The one that's just there, you can only find it in the Galapagos, is the blue-footed booby, and their feet are actually beautiful blue, bright blue, sky blue. They're only found there. There's another one similar to them that's a red-footed booby that does fly around to go to other islands and things. But this one, it's only right there. They don't exist anywhere else in the world. The cute little things. We got to see all that. The fun part of it was the experience itself. It was so positive to be in this place where you realized that thought can change the reality. These birds have evolved. These iguanas have evolved. Why did they evolve? Well, they wanted to find the food that it's thought, it's consciousness. It's the universal consciousness, which includes the plants and the animals. It includes us and the plants and the animals. And they've evolved. And this is fantastic. We had a wonderful time. We had like 10 days of absolute wonderful feeling, positive feeling, connected to the universe. Didn't know that was going to happen. Didn't know that was part of the program. So that was gratitude number one. We went and did that. So the other gratitude will come out in my address now. As most of you know, and as I've been introduced, I'm an evidential medium and a healer who's also a parapsychologist, scientist. And that means that I like the science which proves our principles of spiritualism. I like to have that proof. And I know many of you are very interested in that proof too. You're healers, you're mediums, and you want proof. What are we actually doing here? What's the science behind this? And our principles from the National Association of Spiritualist Churches, our principles were written down in 1893. That's more than 100 years ago. And yet those principles are what we're upholding with the science, particularly the principle number 3, which is that we should have a correct understanding. Well, to have a correct understanding of spiritualism, we need to know the science. And principle number 5, the phenomena of spiritualism, mediumship, the phenomena of spiritualism, proves to us that all of this is real. Well, now we have objective science, the beliefs. When we're at a principle, it's our belief. That's not objective science. That's subjective. That's us, what we feel, what we believe, what we want to be true, what we believe to be true. But when you have science that says, yeah, that is true, it's really different. It's objective science. And so I have two books. You know, you all want to buy my latest book, which is out of print and has gone, you know, gets very pricey for a used copy of it. But that book I wrote in 2016, and time has moved on. We're 6-7 years later. I'm writing another book now, and it'll come out shortly, and we'll be able to buy that instead. And we're going to just kind of let that other one, which it's complicated. We'll let it just be. And I'll bring out another book, which I'm currently writing. But today I've got two books on the subject that are written by other authors that are very helpful, that you might want to have, that talk on the science of consciousness. And those books are, and they talk about something Derek brought up. Derek said, I see the power of perspective. If I change my view, I get something else. I love that. And then Chris sort of said it too. Chris said that when things are outside our control, just let them be. And that's also in these books that I'm talking about. So, and then some of the things that James said, I love that too. All of you are agreeing with what I'm going to be talking about. These two books, one is called Becoming Supernatural. And here's a copy of that. Becoming Supernatural is by Dr. Joe Dispenza. Okay. Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza. It's a 2017 New York Times bestseller in which he discusses all the science behind meditation and getting in touch with the other side. Now, getting in touch with non-local consciousness. He shows how we can use our minds to affect reality, our perspective, and provides a definite methodology to accomplish all of this. He talks a lot about how to meditate and how to use that meditation to cause things to happen around you. It's a little different from, in spiritualism, we're mostly concerned with using our powers to talk to our deceased loved ones on the other side to prove that the consciousness runs the universe. That's what we're really doing. We're proving that universal consciousness, infinite intelligence is real by our talking to our deceased relatives. Well, this goes a little further, how to use mind over matter. The other book is Mind to Matter. That's what it's about. And it's by Dawson Church. Now, Dawson Church differs from Dr. Joe Dispenza a little bit in that Dr. Church likes EFT tapping. He likes that kind of healing. He likes energy healing. And for you Reiki practitioners and stuff, this is important because and this is a 2018 book. Oh, by the way, the foreword for this book is written by the other guy, Dr. Dispenza, who wrote the other book, okay? So they kind of are in cahoots. These guys work together, they do their science together, but they have a different perspective. They're from a slightly different viewpoint. Dr. Dispenza teaches you how to use your meditation to heal yourself. And Dr. Church agrees with that, but he also wants to use tapping. He wants to use the hands-on stuff. And he covers the same material, but he does it from an energy healing perspective. And Dr. Church likes the tapping method. And the two of them, these guys sort of agree that all, and in their science, they show us that all healers, whether it's acupuncture, Quran, hands-on healing, Reiki, EFT tapping, all these person-to-person healings use the same technology. They put EEG, electroencephalograms, on the healers while they're healing and see what goes on. And in each of these, while they're actually doing the healing, they go into delta and theta waves in their brains. And they analyze all this, and they do it very scientifically. But they talk in their books in terms that make sense to everybody, not just scientists. They're very good about that. They list in the back the scientific papers. If a scientist reading the book, he can go look up all the scientific papers and read all the data and everything. But in the text, they talk in terms you can understand. And so since my book's not available, I wanted to recommend these to you. And I'm also going to read, because I wrote my notes. Otherwise, I'll miss something, because I get talking and I get off on a tangent. So I've read both of these books at least twice. And I'm still reading them, maybe the third time, if you want to look at it that way. One of the things they both agree on is all forms of energy healing are doing the same thing, and they all work. They follow on with the patients on all of these. All of them work. They're just, how do we want to do it? Okay. I do healings. I've done a lot of healings at national conventions because they're short healers sometimes. And they just say, come on over. And so I get into healing. I always have the trouble of I get messages while I'm healing. I can't kind of get the thing separate. So I'm getting messages while I'm doing the healing. But I do healing, and I just don't do it in any particular one of the methods. And you might call it hands-on healing. That's what I do. But we're all doing the same thing. It's just a little bit different how we do it. And whatever makes sense to us, whatever perspective we have, and however we want to see it. So these books discuss in very understandable terms the science that supports our connection to infinite intelligence. And what we're doing as mediums is we're connecting to our own higher consciousness, which is a part of the universal consciousness. See, so I always say it's like grains of sand on the beach. The beach is really smart because each of us is a little grain of sand on the beach. And so all those pieces of intelligence make a huge intelligence. And that's what the universal intelligence is. It's the combination of all of us together. And these two PhDs have spent 30 to 40 years of their lifetime studying this. And in the past decade, they've discovered some fantastic things which today provide us with the science which supports the phenomena of spiritualism. Showing the connection with the other side is a scientific fact. And when a skeptic says to you, it's all in your mind, that's spiritualism you believe in, and that's things you think you mind over matter and you're going to control, it's all in your mind. Well, they're actually stating the truth. It is all in your mind, but they're mistaken about what that means. They're trying to say we're crazy, it's all in our mind. Basically, we know that these scientists have proven that the conscious universe is entirely mental, and it is in all of our minds, not just the medium's mind and the spiritualist believer's mind. It's in everybody's mind, including the skeptics. And if the skeptic disbelieves when he does an experiment, we've seen this in science over and over, when a skeptic does an experiment, he finds data that proves his skepticism. And when a believer does an experiment, he finds data that proves what he believes. In other words, we affect the results of the experiment with our minds mentally. We affect the results. That's a proven fact, and science has been proven for the last 100 years. The quantum physicists were the first ones to discover this. And they talked about it a lot. So the skeptic is mentally, he co-creates the proof that it's not true for himself. And that supports his disbelief. And science then has basically proven what you believe is what you get. You can co-create the universe. What you believe is what you get. And I believe that you'll find these two big books to be very valuable. So pick the one. If you're a healer, start with Mind to Matter. And if you're not a healer and you like meditation and you're more towards meditation, you take Becoming Supernatural. Dr. Dispenza is the one who's very careful not to be in any particular religion. He'll talk about the Hindus, he'll talk about the Buddhists, he'll talk about spiritualists, but he's saying this is science, not religion, okay? And he doesn't talk about the healing. Dr. Church does talk about the healing, and like I say, he's into EFT tapping, that's what he does. So he's a little more open to something besides science, okay? Because the tapping, we don't have as much, that the tapping's better than something else. We don't have science on that. We only have science that all healing does the same thing. The healers are doing the exact same thing. They're using their mental powers to transfer energy to the person they're healing. So now one example of how belief that you can co-create works is what happened to me yesterday. So it's a small thing, but it's an important thing. So I'm over. I was doing a aluminum thickness testing on a hull, a yacht hull up in KKMI in Richmond, Keith Kaplan Marine Institute in Richmond. And I'm driving home, and I like to go home across the Golden Gate Bridge. So I'm coming down through Sausalito, and I'm thinking, heading towards Sausalito and in Mill Valley, and I'm thinking, I can stop in that little gas station, that Arco station that's across from Strawberry Shopping Center, and I can, they have a really inexpensive gas there, and I'll just fill up my tank. Well, I have a little smart car, and it takes $20 to fill the tank at the current $4 and something a gallon, and so I need to have $20. And I only have $10 with me, $10 cash. And that station doesn't like credit cards. I think they will take them now, but for years they didn't take any credit cards at all. So, I got credit cards in my pocket, but I only got 2 fives. And I'm thinking, well, that's only getting half a tank. And I really don't want to go out and get some more gas before Monday. And so I get my coins out that I'm normally putting in the parking meters. So I've got a little coin purse. And I found $6 worth of quarters, and I'm going to go up there and hand him 2 fives and $6 worth of quarters and count them out, and I'll get $16 worth. That'll be 3/4 of a tank, So, okay, I decide to pull in, and I pull in there, get in the line, and finally the line pulls forward. The slot on the outside by the road, there's a little place there where you pull in, 3 can go in there, and suddenly that opens up, and so I pull in, and I'm the last car to get in there, and I'm at pump number 18 there, the 18th pump. And I get out of the car, and I walk behind the car, and laying on the ground is a $5 bill folded inside of a $10 bill right at the gas pump, right there at my pump. So I pick up the $15, and I go in, and I pay him 20, my 5, and the 15 I found. And I go back and put $20 in the car, and I still have a 5 when I leave the gas station. Now, the guy that dropped it would be the last guy there, and he'd already buzzed out of there and down the road. He's 8 miles away, So I can't go find him and give him his money back. So I spent the money. It's just handed to me right there. Here I am. I need some money to buy gas, and there it is. How does that happen? This happens a lot, little things like that. So you say, well, that was a coincidence. No, there's too many of these coincidences. They happen all the time. And that was yesterday's. I found this money. I needed a little more money to buy gas. There it was why did I pull into pump number 18? I could have pulled into pump number 1. There's 18 pumps there. Start running the statistics on these synergisms, and they get to be 2,000 to 1, 10,000 to 1. Some of these synergistic things that happen to me are 1,000,000 to 1. I just know it's going to be okay. So I pull into that gas station. Maybe I have to count out coins. There's $15 laying on the ground. I'm very grateful for this stuff because it happens all the time. I don't always, I don't find $1 million laying. I haven't found that yet. $1 million laying on the ground, but 15, 20. Gail has a story about she had to fly to Los Angeles years ago, and it was $100, and she found $100 on the ground when she got to Los Angeles after she scrounged to find $100 to fly down there. These things happen, and the synergism. The $15 is there when I needed the $15. I wasn't broke, but there it was. So there's always a line there. How did I get them to just the right pump, just the right time? Think about all that. Run some numbers on, and you get these wild statistics. So that's what I want to share about those 2 books. And they teach you how to use your meditation, use your mind and your connection to the infinite in the universe to control things around you, including healing. If you get real selfish and say, I want to find $1 million, it might not work for you. But when it's something like this, and you just go along, I didn't ask for the $15. I wasn't saying I'm going to find $15. I just did find $15. And that's what I want you to see is the universe will do this. Providence will provide. Source will just be there when you just move along and do your thing. I was counting the coins. but here the universe gives me $15. And you have to do your work, counting the coins, figuring out, yeah, I'll pull in there. If I hadn't pulled in there, I couldn't find the $15. I had to convince myself, you need to pull in there. So I'm counting the coins. And that's how the universe works. It'll provide for you beyond any of your wildest expectations. Okay, so this morning in my 3 a.m. meditation, I get up at 3 a.m. and communicate with the other side. I do a meditation at 3 in the morning. And I have been doing that for a number of years, pretty faithfully. And I got an important download from the guides on the other side, okay, about this subject of connecting to the universe. And this morning, the message was, Alan, all of your mentors on this side send our love. This is a quote. And this statement's quite a different way to start the communication. Normally, I just hear from Helen, with an occasional visit from other entities related to current issues that I might be facing. Somebody might show up, not a Tesla, but Maxwell. He shows up quite often and tells me things. The Maxwell's equations, if you know what those are. As you go through life, the next thing they said is, they went on to say, as you go through life, you are editing the illusion which you envision as your future. As you go through life, you're editing the illusion which you envision as your future. And by illusion, if you think about the skeptic and his illusion, and think about, we have our illusion, but our illusion is the reality we're co-creating, which you envision as your future. You're editing it, and it's that simple. Nothing on earth is inevitable. It's all changeable. And it's all up to mind. It's all up to consciousness, your consciousness. Now, this wasn't a very surprising thing for me to hear from the other side, because it goes along with Dr. Church and Dr. Dispenza and what they're saying. So it's just, what I'm already working on. And so here they are telling me what I'm already working on. But then the guides on the other side said, yes, you can change the world's collective unconscious. If you know, Carl Jung talks about the collective conscious, the symbols that we have, what we see in the tarot are those symbols, the different ideas that float in the heads of everybody, the collective unconscious. Then the guide said, that's what we, the guides, are. We are the collective unconscious. We are not merely a group of your personal guides, Alan. We're not an A-team dedicated just to you. Instead, we are the collective unconscious of all the consciousness in your world, the consciousness of the plants, the consciousness of the rocks. They are the infinite intelligence that we talk about, that we believe in. The guides are that. And then they said, the concept espoused by many mediums of my personal guides is an ego thing. We are no one's special guides. Instead, we are everyone's guides. Indeed, we guide the universe. What you personally choose to see as a group of individuals over here is actually all of infinite intelligence, non-local consciousness, God, the unified field, universal consciousness. It doesn't matter how you choose to see us. You can perceive this illusion however you wish. Your personal set of guides. I see it as being Helen. You can see it any way you wish. But we are one. We are not separate. We are one consciousness. We're not separate. We are you. We are your higher consciousness. We are I am. And in the Bible, it's God said, I forget where, I am that I am. So that's what they're talking about, the I am, the us, our higher consciousness. And then they went on to say, Connecting to your true self, us, is what Dr. Dispenza and Dr. Church are talking about. Literally becoming supernatural. But to surrender your ego so that it does not get in the way of your work, you must always keep sight of the fact that all people are one. And the fact that your personal higher power is God, a part of God, applies to all people equally and not just to you. We are all part of God. We are all connected to that consciousness. People who believe in their diseases and die from those diseases because they can't get around believing in it are creating their own reality. Just as surely as you can create your own healing, or two of you can get together and heal each other. Your healing is the belief I'm going to get well. And the other person says, oh, I can't overcome, I've been struck with this disease, I can't overcome, and he dies from it. You're all both the guy dying and the guy healing are both co-creating your own reality by what you believe, what you choose to believe. And that's what Dispenza and Church are really trying to talk about, is what do you choose to be your perspective? Derek has said it. I realized perspective it changed everything. Yes, perspective changes everything. So the people who are stuck in their disbelief, or the skeptic, or the one who's dying because he can't get around to the healing, those people have no idea that they have the power and that they're in control of that power. And they go ahead and do their, I don't know what to call it, destructive thing or their negative thing, or but they're the ones creating that. They're co-creating the negative thing that's happening. They can uncreate that and change their mind and heal. And Dispenza's done, 30, 40 years of this, working with people who have healed themselves from multiple sclerosis, things like that. They've healed themselves from it. Parkinson's, they've healed themselves from cancer. Anita Marjani, she was supposed to be dead, and she actually died and then didn't die. And she came back, and within a couple of days, all of her huge tumors disappeared. They just disappeared. It's quite a story, because she realized, well, I'm not supposed to die. She changed her perspective. And I talked to Anita personally. And she doesn't know me, but I know her, okay. And she's a very sweet person who is still alive, beautifully alive, all these years later, and should have been dead 15 years ago, I think it is, and can prove it. That, she's got pictures and everything of her with this huge tumors. But because she didn't die, she determined in her head, I'm not supposed to be dead. So she didn't die. And before that, she was, get worse and worse and worse. And now she's just fine. So the only difference between those who have a negative experience and those who have a positive experience is that we are aware of what's going on here. The skeptic doesn't know what's going on. We do. We know he's creating his own results in his experiments. We know that he's co-creating what happens to him. And we co-create what happens to us. Now, some of people may wish to disagree with what I've said, and that's okay. That's their prerogative. This perspective that I've outlined here is not gospel handed down from on high. Neither is it the official position of the NSAC. It's merely the message I received this morning at 3 a.m., which I'm sharing with you, okay? And so, on the other hand, it does not disagree with our NSAC principles. It goes along with those. And other people have different experiences. We each have our own perspective and our own way of seeing things, okay? And I talked to Helen, and some people talk to their group of guides. All that the universe was telling me is that we all have access to all the guides. Nobody has a a lock on, I've got the guides and you don't. That's just not true. We all have access, and that's what they're telling me. So my interpretation of what this means is that every one of us has access to all the guides and all the information in the conscious universe. And we can tap into all of that whenever we need to. And none of us is more special than anyone else. And we have the power, although we may not even be aware of it, of co-creating everything around us. And that's what our mediumship study groups are about. We all have the power to be mediums. That's why we want people to come to learn how to be mediums. No one is special. No one is more gifted by the universe. Some of us may have refined our discernment through careful study and continual practice to be evidential mediums. And it's like concert piano practice. You get better and better, more refined. But you're not gifted or special. You're just more refined at it. You find it easier to do, maybe. And we've done that through careful study and continual practice, but no one is more important to the universe than anyone else. None of us is more important than anyone else. That's so important to remember, because I see a lot of people struggling to keep ahead of their egos, to get around their egos. They could be so much larger, greater than they are, but they're stuck in the ego thing. And that's a difficulty. I don't see that so much, honestly, at Celebrate Life. The egos are pretty well surrendered at Celebrate Life. And that's what I really like about our community. But it is out there, and I do see it elsewhere. We each have the ability to touch in with the infinite intelligence. And that's what's so important, especially when you bring new people into our community. You need to let each one of them know that they're important to the universe. They count. I just love what Derica said today, because she got that perspective. She saw that change in perspective. And if we can help people change their perspective, we can take them from so much misery to so much happiness. And that's what we have. We have that to give to people. And that's a wonderful thing. Okay, I'm going to leave you there, and we'll move on to the